Hey, it's Dr. Dave and Emily here.
Hey guys.
This is going to be a little bit different of a Friday fix from our normal versions where we teach you how to do different activities. But this is more around sort of mindset and thought processes and kind of fixing thought processes as to what we think is actually effective treatment. So just kind of a background is what brought this up and why it's a timely post. We're doing this as sort of a Father's Day special, which you'll find out the backstory on that here in a couple minutes. But Emily, in addition to just being a customer, a great customer service representative here, she has some other businesses that she does as far as dance instructing and Reiki and some sort of coaching that you do as well. Mm-hmm. And we were talking the other day. I had a client we were doing a lot of kind of talking with, and she was telling a story about her client as well that had a similar situation. So if you don't mind kind of sharing what you were talking about with your client, don't reveal any names or anything you can't do.
Yeah, I have a background in different embodied coaching techniques, and that sort of links to different energy healing modalities and things that I've done with people over the years, where I feel like I have a lot of tools, inquiry tools, to come into the body and really presence the body. And heal things that way. And so I'm with a client that I sat with and thought, wow, I have all these great tools to use with this person. I can't wait to dive in and really get in, with their life and see what's going on. And what actually ended up happening was that really all they wanted was for me to just really listen and provide very strong presence, loving presence for them to be able to talk about what was going on. So I ended up being pretty much just a sounding board. And I was telling Dave, I thought, man, I have all these tools and I didn't use them. So what was the value of the session at the end of the day?
And do you remember what my response to that was?
And he said, well, that is the value sometimes, just being a presence for someone, being a sounding board, right? And I was like, oh, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of felt guilty because she said, "Well, I didn't do anything to help them." And I said, "Who said you didn't help them?" That just sometimes being there to listen, and she may not have anyone else who actually does that at home, or doctors, counselors, friends, church pastors. You may be the only person that does that for her.
Yeah.
And I had a similar situation this week too. That a client was just very exhausted, and I've been doing therapy for 11 years now. Back first when I started out of school, I had this thought of, okay, well, I have 30 minutes with this person, and I have this exercise that I want to do, and that exercise, and this exercise. We have to review all their home exercises, and man, we just got to get going. We got to get to it. And some days they would come in and they just weren't feeling it, and they were trying to tell stories, and I would sit here looking at my clock like, they're wasting my time. What are we doing? And because I had this agenda that I wanted to get to, but really the value of that session to that person was maybe just to be heard and to talk. And I had a client who came in exhausted from a lot of things that they were going through at home, and basically we talked, we reflected on it. She got a lot of things out there, and by the end, she came to a lot of mental clarity, and really all I did was listen. And here's kind of where it rolls around into the Father's Day post. So I was telling Emily the other day that when I was in high school, I would come home with homework like chemistry or calculus or something like that. And I'm sure my mom's out here watching this. My dad doesn't even have a Facebook page, but she'll probably show it to him. So thank you, Dad. But I'd come to him with a question like, Dad, I don't understand this problem. Can you help me do it? And so he'd say, well, show me what you've done already. And so I would talk my way through the problem. And I'd say, well, you do this and you do that. And because of this, you go through this step. And by the end of it, I'd say, and then you do this and you do that. And I'd get the answer. And I'd say, well, thanks, Dad. And he'd say, well, I didn't do anything. I just listened. But just by talking it out, getting it out of my head and having to think through it enough to verbalize it and put it into words, I came to the answer on my own. And so just being there to be a sounding board is sometimes helpful. Now, there are times you have to do things too, and you have to have the knowledge. And to some extent, you were saying earlier, having the tools available when you need them, but knowing when, so to speak, to keep the guns holstered and just sit there and listen.
Very powerful space.
So we were discussing a couple resources. There's a book out there by Dr. Joe Dispenza called "You Are the Placebo," and how sometimes just mind space and healing and in your brain has a very powerful effect. And there's a lot of research coming out in originally the psychology world, but now even bleeding over into physical therapy about the value of therapeutic alliance. And basically what that means is the relationship between a client or a patient and their practitioner sometimes has more actual power than the actual tool or exercise or manual therapy technique or whatever it is that you're actually doing, so to speak, in the session. And that two people can do the exact same treatment to the exact same client, and depending on the relationship between them, that can either be more or less or not effective. So the power of the relationship is helpful. Anything you have to add to any of this?
No, it's just that it's coming to me as we're even being a sounding board to each other, that those of us in this industry that are so passionate about creating safe healing spaces for people to work through a lot of what's going on, we've done a lot of that for ourselves. So we have a sense of really caring about people because we really cared about ourselves too. We have our own practice. And we have the space for people. And not everybody in everybody's life does. I think you mentioned that earlier. Sometimes you have that girlfriend or your guy friend that you want to talk over something with, and they're just not focused and can't be with you. But it's something that we are very good at, along with all the other tools that we have, is that safe space.
So there's our Friday fix for the day, is that you don't always have to do something to do something. If you are more one of those people who likes to do and have actual practical useful knowledge, stay back tuned on Sunday, on Father's Day, and I'm going to repost a video that I recorded with my dad about 6 months ago when I was visiting him down in Florida. And it's more of the typical stuff that you would see on Friday about back pain and posture and squatting, and kind of going through that with my own dad. So happy Father's Day. Enjoy your weekend, and thanks for tuning in.